Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Bruce Frisco. Todd Battis is off this week. It is Thursday, the 2nd of April. This is CTV News. Tonight, heartache and rage. The parents of a young murder victim bring both to the first of many court appearances. Gassing the gas tax. Growing calls for relief at the pumps as the prices continue to soar.
Snow, ice, and rain tomorrow with another system lined up to move through on Easter Sunday.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Bruce Frisco.
Good evening. An initial court appearance today for one of 3 people charged in a horrific murder case in Moncton. The proceedings were short, but marked by the appearance of the victim's parents, who remain stunned and outraged by what happened to their daughter before and after her murder. CTV's Derek Haggett spoke with both of them.
The parents of Melissa Price were present for a court appearance this morning for one of the people accused of killing her.
Why?
Yes.
She was my daughter.
Price's body was discovered in a garbage bin at the bottom of High Street in Moncton on February 15th. Devlin Oblinus was arrested less than a month later and charged with first-degree murder in the death of the 39-year-old Moncton woman. Oblinus made a brief court appearance via telephone from jail in Shediac. Court heard his lawyer was out of the country, so the matter was adjourned.
I believe in God, and I don't think it's my place to have vengeance, but I'm finding it really hard at my age not to jump over chairs and stuff. If I saw him today, I don't know how I would react. My youth is gone, but I've still got a lot of fire in my veins.
Pat Price thanked homicide investigators for a fantastic job and says her daughter didn't deserve what happened to her.
40 this Saturday. 40. I have to sing happy birthday to a box, an urn.
Leandra Beaulieu was arrested in March and also charged with first-degree murder in connection to Price's death. Police also arrested Joshua Martin last month and charged him with being an accessory after the fact of murder and indignity to a human body. Devlin Oblinus is scheduled to be back in court on April 16th for an in-person appearance. Pat and Peter Price say they'll definitely be here for that. The Prices say they plan on being at all of the upcoming court appearances for the 3 accused.
Every one of them. I don't care if I have to sleep out here in the tent. I'll be here.
None of the charges against any of the accused in this case have been proven in court. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Moncton.
To the Halifax area now, where an 18-year-old man is facing more than 50 charges after a large cache of weapons, body armor, and police-related items were found inside a home. Police say incidents quickly unfolded after they were called to a potential case of intimate partner violence. CTV's Hafsa Arif has the details.
I'm standing here by Cow Bay Road, where police say what started as a call about a suspicious person turned into something much more serious. Police say it was around 8:40 Tuesday night when officers were called to a restaurant in this area after reports of a man wearing a balaclava outside. Investigators say the man was known to an employee inside. When officers arrived, the suspect tried to run, which is when police spotted what appeared to be a gun. The K-9 unit tracked a man down and an arrest was made. Officers identify the accused as 18-year-old Connor James Tobin of Eastern Passage.
The semi-automatic rifle that was loaded and located on him, as well as an overcapacity magazine. It was an intimate partner violence situation, so the person inside the restaurant as well as the accused were in a relationship at one point.
A search warrant to a home nearby where police say they found more guns, body armor, and RCMP patches. Tobin is now facing more than 50 charges, including possessions of a weapon for a dangerous purpose, carrying a concealed weapon, unauthorized possession of a firearm, criminal harassment, and disguise with intent. The possession of body armor without a valid permit and possession of police shoulder patches are laid under separate acts.
Investigation is ongoing to learn about how the weapons came into possession and what the circumstances were before with the relationship that led to this.
Police aren't going into detail about what may have been planned, but they are making one thing clear. With the weapons involved, this situation had the potential to escalate quickly. Hafsa Arif, CTV News, Eastern Passage.
Just a reminder, for more on this or any of the stories you're seeing tonight, feel free to visit our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. Heading into the long weekend with a lot of people traveling, 2 major highways in Nova Scotia remain blocked this evening. This follows another RCMP cannabis raid at Potluck First Nation this morning. This all unfolded around 7:30 a.m. Officers went into a dispensary with a search warrant under the Cannabis Act on Highway 4 in the Cape Breton community. Police arrested 2 men and seized cannabis products. Following that operation, police say a group gathered to protest and block access to the highway. That forced officers to abandon their vehicles and leave on foot. Late this afternoon, the highway was still blocked and the police vehicles remain in Potluck, also known as Chapel Island. Meantime, another protest shut down part of Highway 102 inbound at exit 10 today. Traffic was moving, but very slowly for several hours. Police say their liaison teams have been speaking with leaders of both groups. At last reports, no arrests had been made in connection to the blockades. Okay, here's a live look at picturesque Peggy's Cove, where it's currently 1 degree and not a lot of people climbing around the rocks out there tonight. And can't really blame them because despite the sunshine, it is cool out there, especially in the breeze.
Yeah, and I wanted to start off with just a quick check-in on some current conditions around the Maritimes. Anybody heading out to Thursday evening and night plans? You see, I got the Easter weekend already on my mind. Temperatures right now cool to chilly around the Maritimes. You can see most of those temperatures down to the low single digits in a few areas now at or below the freezing mark, including now across much of Prince Edward Island and across Cape Breton. Most temperatures as we move through this evening and tonight are headed down to and below 0. Now the winds continue mostly out of an easterly direction. They're being sustained between around 15 and 30 kilometers per hour. They'll continue to get a little bit lighter as we make our way towards midnight. It's partly cloudy conditions right now, but moving through the night, we're going to be seeing some increasing cloudiness, and that is ahead of our next weather system, which is that low pressure system that's currently making its way through the Midwestern United States. If we look up in Ontario, you can see the mix of precipitation along with this weather system, including snow up towards the north, and then there's a mixture of some ice pellets and freezing rain, and then some rain along with it. And since it is going to be headed in our direction, we can expect a similar sort of mix here in the Maritimes coming up for tomorrow. So we have some weather alerts already in effect for parts of the region. We have a snowfall warning out for the northernmost counties in New Brunswick, where potentially it could be as much as 15 to 30 centimeters of snow. Now, the caveat comes with this snowfall is that in some cases it may end up mixing with some ice pellets. And if there's a lot of ice pellets in that mix, that could reduce the overall amount of snow that adds up. That's pretty common as we make our way through the spring, but still, it is expected to create some slippery conditions, including slippery roads at times. Most of that snow will be falling through the day on Friday. Now, for much of the remainder of the Maritimes, it's a special weather statement in effect. Not as much potential for the snow and the ice pellets to add up to, say, anything more than, say, a few to several centimeters. But with ice pellets and freezing rain expected for a period of time, there could still be some very slick spots. Areas that are not underneath the special weather statement, well, that includes much of the west of Nova Scotia, where this weather system is primarily expected to be rain, with rainfall amounts of around 5 to 15 millimeters. Should be a pretty quick turnover to rain as well around the Bay of Fundy coastline in New Brunswick and parts of the southwest of that province. I'll have a closer look at it, though, including the timing of the weather system, what comes up in behind it, when I'm back a little bit later on. Bruce.
Yeah, 15 or 20 minutes or so. Thank you for that, Kalen. With the soaring cost of fuel these days, there are growing calls across the country to cut the gas tax. But here in the Maritimes, provincial leaders say there might not be much room to move. Still, as CTV's Josh Smith tells us tonight, drivers here in the Maritimes are getting very tired of digging deeper and deeper every time they go to fill up.
At the pumps in Shediac, higher prices are starting to change habits.
So some people regularly fill the Supreme premium gas for his car, but due to the prices, he reduced his gas from the Supreme to regular gas because it is not affordable.
This gas station offers 5 cents off a liter if paying cash or debit, but most customers are fed up.
I mean, the gas prices are ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, when they really shouldn't be right now.
That frustration now part of a growing political debate, with federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre calling for a temporary cut to federal gas taxes. saying it would bring immediate relief.
A policy that would save 25 cents a litre, about $20 a fill-up, and $1,200 for the average family of four between now and the end of the year.
Drivers here say the proposed holiday tax would help.
Cut a tax, yeah, that would, because I mean, most of our petroleum is all tax, most of it.
Oh, do you think with the prices of everything nowadays, you think the gas prices could go down instead of going up or something?
New Brunswick Finance Minister Renee Legacy says the province doesn't have the financial room to make it work.
It says right now, I don't think we have the means to make anything significant there.
And in Nova Scotia, Premier Tim Houston says while affordability remains a concern, cutting the gas tax isn't on the table.
We're doing what we can in this moment for Nova Scotians, but we'll always look at other opportunities, but there's nothing that we're considering right now.
Both provinces are facing significant deficits, with New Brunswick projecting about $1.4 billion and Nova Scotia around $1.2 billion, leaving drivers with a taxing problem at a time when affordability is top of mind. Josh Smith, CTV News, Shediac, New Brunswick.
This issue is the focus of our CTV News web poll tonight and this weekend. We're asking, should governments remove gas taxes to reduce the prices? Yes or no, we'll do it for this one. As always, you can weigh in at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. Seems to be growing momentum around here for lowering the screening age for colorectal cancer. The Canadian Cancer Society notes the disease is increasingly common in younger people. That's prompted one province to already make the shift. Still, some wonder if there is a better way. CTV's Jesse Thomas has more.
More young adults are being diagnosed with colorectal cancer, and advocates say screening hasn't caught up with the new evidence. And so the Canadian Cancer Society is calling on provinces and territories to lower the routine screening age from 50 down to 45.
Evidence is telling us is that younger Canadians, particularly those under the age of 50, are 2 to 2.5 times more likely than previous generations to be diagnosed with colorectal cancer.
Earlier this week, PEI became the first province to offer colorectal screening at 45, aiming to catch cancer earlier.
Waiting till 50 is no longer an option. It's just not enough.
The Nova Scotia Liberal Party tabled a bill during this budget session looking to follow PEI's lead.
In Atlantic Canada in general, our cancer rates are higher, so we want to see urgent action on that. I don't agree with moving the whole system to an opt-in.
Premier Tim Houston says only half of colorectal screening kits mailed out are being returned for testing. He wonders if an opt-in system would serve better.
So if we change the process so people opt in and are more likely to get it back, then maybe that 100%, maybe we get a higher percentage back, and that might allow us to go to a younger age. So we're looking at a couple things on that.
In the meantime, the Nova Scotia government is doing some analysis and looking at capacity to make similar changes here. The New Brunswick government is doing the same, but in the meantime, it's status quo with routine testing starting at age 50. The Canadian Cancer Society says lowering screening to 45 is preventative medicine and believe doing so will help save lives and ultimately save additional healthcare costs down the road.
When identified at those earliest stages, it's 90% survival rate. That drops to 15% in the later stages like a stage 3 or a stage 4.
Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
It may have been lost in the headlines, but this week's major review on the future of NB Power had a lot to say about the rest of the region as well. As CTV's Nick Moore tells us tonight, there is a sizable appetite for more maritime cooperation, even if the finer details haven't been finalized just yet.
It will take a regional approach for NB Power to do well in the future, according to the panel, which spent a year reviewing the utility's future. Both NB Power and the New Brunswick government are signaling they agree.
If there's an opportunity for us to work together as a region, we're definitely stronger together than we are individually.
How far and how deep we can make that happen is going to be a big project, going to be a big study. It's not going to be a corner of a desk kind of discussion.
The panel says collaboration at the corporate level between the three maritime power utilities could address higher costs and inefficiencies.
I think that makes a lot of sense and could help bring our bills down going
forward.
Shelley Petit of the New Brunswick Coalition for Persons with Disabilities was an intervener at the recent NB Power rate hearings.
Why do we need 3 utilities for such a small population? We don't need all these VPs. They could share that workload.
A recent report from Deloitte says there's $100 billion in potential economic growth from stronger regional cooperation on offshore wind, hydro, and nuclear energy coming from Point Lepreau.
What it means is we collaborate together, we plan together, we schedule our investments together.
The NB Power Review Panel is recommending that New Brunswick begin an immediate discussion on the idea of sharing responsibilities of a maritime independent system operator to manage power supply and demand. The panel says the timing is spot on, with Nova Scotia working to launch its own system. Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston.
Absolutely, I'd love to see an independent system operator looking across the region at what's possible. We share energy anyway, as it is, and I think having one across the region makes great sense.
The NB Power Review Panel also says the pitch for a second nuclear plant at Point Lepreau will only have a shot if it complements other energy priorities in the region.
You need somewhere to put all that baseload power. Now, the good news is that there is a lot of talk about more cooperation between our neighboring provinces.
We've got offshore wind planned in Nova Scotia that is really variable and varies with the wind. So having that kind of firm baseload power in New Brunswick is a really critical element.
The Deloitte report says the window is closing on the region filling energy demands, with the country's need for electricity projected to double by 2050. Nick Moore, CTV News, St. John.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
People in the Windsor area of Nova Scotia are happy federal approval has now been granted to complete work on Highway 101 near that community. Years of delays have forced motorists to slow down and deal with lane changes, which has resulted in a number of accidents. CTV's Jonathan McGuinness has details.
The fourth time is a charm for the province of Nova Scotia. 3 previous proposals to have work done on Highway 101 that crosses the Avon River have been denied. Today, the federal government gave the go-ahead.
Minister Joanne Thompson provided a Fisheries Act authorization to the province of Nova Scotia for the ability for the province to move forward with the construction of a new abateau on the Avon River, along with an authorization to allow for the construction of 2 bridges.
The permit will also allow for the presence of a brackish lake. The first proposal, submitted in 2020, came with a price tag of $177 million. West Hants MP Cody Blois says that has gone up, but the work is important and will be moving forward.
First of all, the authorization will be in place until December 31st, 2033. This gives an adequate time for the proponent, the province of Nova Scotia, to be able to make provisions, to be able to construct the new abateau, to be able to undertake the work.
There is also the matter of public safety.
It was a very dangerous section of highway, and multiple accidents throughout the years, and this will be a great day when it's finally complete.
The current Avon River abateau was built in the late 1960s. The Assembly of Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Chiefs has expressed concern about the future of fish passage in the river.
This is a pathway where we are respecting Indigenous rights, we are protecting fish species, we are improving fish passage, we are improving public safety.
The new abateau will provide flood protection for the communities of Falmouth and Windsor. The old abateau will be removed once the new one is in place. And Bruce, it's expected it'll take about 3 years to build the abateau and the bridges. A committee is also going to be put together to monitor the impact all of this will have on fish passage and the environment. Bruce.
Okay, thank you, John. CTV's Jonathan McGuinness reporting from Windsor tonight. Speaking of traffic, a heads up for Halifax commuters. The McDonald Bridge will be closed for part of this coming long weekend. Officials say the span will close Saturday, April 4th at 8 p.m., reopening at 5:30 a.m. on Sunday morning. Halifax Harbour Bridges says it's all to accommodate the second phase of what's called Project Lifespan. The McDonald will remain open for cyclists and pedestrians, although there might be some delays. The McKay, of course, remains open all weekend long. All right, time for our first break. Still to come tonight, Kaylin's full forecast as we ease into the weekend. First, though, to the moon and back again.
Sending a little piece of Canada into outer space is a real privilege and very exciting.
Tell you about some very special cargo, fresh from the Maritimes, on its way to the moon, Artemis 2. That's next. If the moon mission weren't already fascinating enough, check this out. So we know Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen is on board Artemis 2, but you may not have known the mission is also carrying 2,500 tree seeds from Fredericton. CTV's Avery McRae has the details, including the significance of the cargo.
Inside the walls of the National Tree Seed Center in Fredericton, thousands upon thousands of seeds from hundreds of Canadian species are stored. Here they're preserved and researched, but of late the center has been busy preparing some seeds for a once-in-a-lifetime mission.
Sending a little piece of Canada into outer space is a real privilege and very exciting.
4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition.
On board the historic Artemis 2 launch was not only Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen, but 2,500 seeds from 5 tree species. The 5 species selected represent the country and the challenges facing the forestry sector, the center says. The seeds are lodgepole pine, a timber officials say is a flagship for the warnings of climate change, eastern white cedar, commonly used in sacred medicines by Indigenous peoples, red maple for its iconic red leaf, white birch, which can be found nationwide, and eastern white pine, a species that stands tall in Canada's northern forests.
25% of Canada's native trees now are endangered or imperiled in some way. So this mission is really about elevating the awareness and the importance of tree seed.
As for the future of these seeds following their out-of-this-world trip, they'll be returned to the Seed Center, and assuming they survive, they'll be planted and grown for the public to see. Derboca hopes wherever the seeds spread their roots, it will ingrain that important message of conservation.
Because it underpins all of our economic, ecological, and cultural values that we take for granted in our forests.
Avery McRae, CTV News, Fredericton.
To the latest on the Iranian war now, U.S. President Donald Trump is vowing to ramp up attacks in the country over the next couple of weeks, while at the same time insisting the U.S. is negotiating with Tehran to end the war. ABC's Christiane Cordero has the latest now from Washington.
Today, new video released by the Central Command shows U.S. airstrikes on multiple targets as it insists the U.S. is making, quote, undeniable progress in its war on Iran. In this 5th week of the war, video circulating online shows strikes near an airport in Tehran. And another video from the central city of Isfahan, where a U.S. attack on an Iranian nuclear facility earlier this week sent a massive fireball to the sky. President Trump says the operation is nearing completion, while also threatening to escalate attacks over the next few weeks if Iran doesn't agree to a deal.
We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong.
And in last night's address to the nation, he said it's up to other countries to get their oil from the Iranian-controlled Strait of Hormuz.
The countries of the world that do receive oil through the Hormuz Strait must take care of that passage. They must cherish it. They must grab it and cherish it. They can do it easily.
And an urgent meeting of 40 countries today on how to end Iran's stranglehold of the strait.
Good morning, afternoon and evening to colleagues from all over the world.
The new coalition of countries are trying to find a way to reopen navigation once a ceasefire is in place.
We have seen Iran hijack an international shipping route to hold the global economy hostage.
The price of oil surged 12% this morning. Gas Buddies says the national average price of gasoline could rise to above $4.25 per gallon in the next 2 weeks, with diesel rising to above $5.80 per gallon, which could be record-setting. Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
All right, we'll step aside for a quick little minute here. Still to come, your long weekend weather update. Kaylin will have all those details when we return. Okay, some snow flurries and wind along the coast at Sambro Nova Scotia a little bit earlier today. I noticed some flurries around the Halifax area today as well.
Yeah, that's a sure sign that we have some chilly air that's sticking around. Of course, it is getting colder as we're moving through this evening and tonight. Most of the temperatures falling back below the freezing mark, and that produces a bit of an issue for us when it comes to tomorrow's weather, because that means that once again some icy conditions are possible as that mix of precipitation.
This is becoming an unfortunate pattern.
It is the second very similar weather system we have had to deal with this week. So let's take a look at our forecast timeline, talk about the timing of this weather and who is going to be seeing what as we make our way into and through Friday. So first of all, for tonight, it's increasing cloudiness. The first of a light mixture of some snow and some ice pellets shows up for communities in the west of New Brunswick in the very early morning hours of Friday, with that mixture of snow and ice pellets spreading quickly across New Brunswick as we move through Friday morning. At the same time, it'll be some light rain arriving in the southwest of Nova Scotia, with a risk that there could be some patchy light freezing rain in the interior of the southwest, where temperatures might be a little bit colder. Now, as we make our way into the afternoon, it'll be snow and ice pellets pushing up to the north of New Brunswick. Snow and ice pellets turning through freezing rain to rain for much of the remainder of New Brunswick. A mixture of snow, ice pellets, and freezing rain for Prince Edward Island, parts of the east of Nova Scotia. Mostly rain into the southwestern corner of New Brunswick and western areas of Nova Scotia. Now, this weather system, it does linger a little bit. This mix of precipitation is going to be around as we head into Friday evening and night, but it is expected to diminish or basically become a little bit lighter as we make our way through the overnight hours. By the time we get to Saturday morning around the Maritimes, down to a chance of some flurries and some showers. So let's talk about how much snow we can see out of this weather system. The snowiest area looks like it's going to be right up in the north of New Brunswick. We talked about this earlier, where the snowfall warnings are in effect. And you can see there the potential of maybe 10 to 20 centimeters of snow, maybe a little bit higher as you get up towards Campbellton and Dalhousie. Again, if there's a lot of ice pellets that mix in, that may lower the overall snowfall totals, but it is still enough that there's going to be some slippery, snowy, icy road conditions that will develop during the day. Now, in other parts of the Maritimes, say Prince Edward Island, in most cases, a chance of seeing some accumulations of between 2 and 5 centimeters when it comes to the snow and ice pellets. So some pockets of 5 to 10 centimeters in the west of Prince Edward Island. Can't rule that out. And same thing goes in Cape Breton. There might be some areas that pick up 5 to 10 centimeters of accumulation in snow and ice pellets, and then more up in the Cape Breton Highlands. And then a bigger part of the Maritimes will be at risk of seeing some ice accumulation. That could be in ice pellets and freezing rain. Mostly light, but remember, even if it's just a light glaze, that can create some very slippery surfaces. And then you'll notice there's some pockets of oranges showing up here through parts of New Brunswick into the southeast of that province, around areas of Prince Edward Island, north and east of Nova Scotia. That could be some moderate icing, maybe about 2 to 5 millimeters of ice accretion on surfaces. And if that happens, you might notice things such as tree branches starting to become weighed down a little bit more by the accumulation of that freezing rain. Winds in the forecast for tomorrow with this weather system, they're going to become southerly for the afternoon. Well, southerly for New Brunswick and out of the southeast for Prince Edward Island and Nova Scotia. Some fairly widespread gusts between 20 and 40 kilometers per hour. Low temperatures in the forecast for tonight around the Maritimes will be falling into a range of around -6 to 0. Chilliest for northern and eastern parts of the region, including Cape Breton, the north of New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island. High temperatures tomorrow in the north of New Brunswick, mostly between around -1 and +3. Remains chilliest in the northeast. For central and southern areas of New Brunswick, late in the day, temperatures coming up between 1 and 6 degrees. You notice a little bit milder in the southwest, and that's why that changeover to rain is expected to happen a little bit quicker there. Prince Edward Island, though, with high temperatures during the day that remain right around the freezing mark. So that's going to be basically a snowy, icy mix of weather that extends through much of the day on Friday once it starts. Same thing goes for eastern areas of Nova Scotia with high temperatures between around -1 and +2. Northern and central areas of Nova Scotia with high temperatures between 1 and 5 degrees on Friday. So risk of patchy freezing rain away from the coastline in the morning, followed up by rain, drizzle, and fog. Same thing goes for the southwest of Nova Scotia. Most of the high temperatures between 4 and 7 degrees. Taking a look at the extended forecast on Saturday for New Brunswick, a chance of flurries mostly around the southeast of the province. Another mixture of some snow turning through some ice pellets and freezing rain over to rain in the forecast for Sunday, though the turnover to rain does look like it'll be a little bit quicker that day. Chance of flurries on Monday, then a mix of sun and cloud Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. Temperatures cool to chilly. For Nova Scotia and the outlook for the Easter weekend coming up on Saturday, might be some isolated flurries around. Showers in the forecast for Sunday, followed by a chance of showers on Monday. And then a mix of sun and cloud with some cool to chilly temperatures Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week. And for Prince Edward Island in the outlook coming up on Saturday, it's a chance of some flurries. Rain in the forecast for Sunday, followed by a chance of showers, mostly during the morning on Monday. After that, it's a mix of sun and cloud on Tuesday, colder on Wednesday, and a mix of sun and cloud on Thursday of next week. Bruce.
Chocolate's going to get all soggy.
I'm not exactly feeling like the Easter Bunny here, given this type of forecast.
So no. All right, thank you, my friend. Wake up weather still to come tonight. Coming up next, a chat with a well-known theology professor about the Pope's growing battles with the President of the United States and the growing interest in the Catholic Church. Stay with us. That's coming up next.
Okay, so we hope you have a great long weekend and join us Monday for your chance to win a $100 gas card.
We'll also tell you how you could win a trip for two to Bruno Mars in Toronto. Good luck.
As we approach Good Friday tomorrow, Catholics around the world may spend more than a few moments contemplating the words of the leader of that religion, Pope Leo XIV. The former Robert Francis Prevost was already kind of a trailblazer when he was elected to head the church on May 8th of last year. Not afraid of controversy, he's spoken out about a variety of issues, including some very recent remarks about the war in Iran, in which he actually named his fellow American the sitting U.S. president. Joining us tonight to talk about Pope Leo's first year, we're happy to welcome a familiar face and an old friend, David Dean, now in Edmonton and a professor of theology at Newman Theological College. Thanks so much for your time tonight, David. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Bruce. Great to see you.
What kind of grade would you give Pope Leo for year one here?
I would give him an A, verging on the A+. He has been exactly as advertised. He's brought calmness, he's brought unity, he's brought stability, and he is very unusually, perhaps even uniquely, being celebrated by both elements within the church, both the progressive element and the conservative element. So anyone that can do that is doing a really great job.
So last Sunday, Palm Sunday, the pontiff said the war was, and I'm quoting here, atrocious, and said Jesus could not be used to justify the fighting. This is our God, Jesus, King of Peace, he said, who rejects wars, whom no one can use to justify war. He told tens of thousands of worshipers here he does not listen to the prayers of those who wage war, rejects them, and then added a Bible passage, even though you make many prayers, I will not listen. Your hands are full of blood. That does not really sound like a man who's tiptoeing around diplomatically here. Apparently prompted a fairly angry reaction from the president and his war secretary.
Yes, it definitely wasn't very subtle. It was a strident rebuke of the warmongering, which is de jour in the Trump administration. And, but, you know, it came from a deep-seated Christian faith. It came from the father of the Catholic Church, and therefore it will and should challenge all Catholics in the United States and elsewhere to give serious thought to what's going on in things like the war in Iran. Interestingly, yes, it has brought some critique from voices within the Trump administration, but it says an awful lot that this is one global political leader that Trump hasn't responded to with vitriol and invective. He hasn't insulted or abused, because I think he realizes that his coalition requires Catholic support. And while many Catholics may be, you know, supportive of him on some fronts, you know, the kind of critique he gives to people like Keir Starmer would not go down well if he was to respond to Pope Leo in that fashion.
I was very interested to read this week that when Leo was kind of considered a dark horse candidate, right, for the papacy, because the cardinals were uneasy about giving the United States more geopolitical power, which, let's be honest, this is what this is. So in retrospect, this almost seems like kind of a wise choice now.
Yes, I think there's a number. That's exactly it. There is always a a lobby against an American candidate for the papacy because of precisely that it places too much weight in the global hegemon. But Leo doesn't present, or Prevost didn't really present as American. He didn't register as American for many of the cardinals because he'd spent so much time in Peru. And also they associate Americans with bombast, with color, with loudness, and he's very gentle and quiet, and so and they also, I think, knew that he would be a measured critic of Trump, and so therefore I think he was a wise choice from that perspective.
I have to ask you about the apparent growth in the church. This flies in the face of what we've seen for decades now, but I've seen a number of reports suggesting membership in the Catholic Church has grown substantially, apparently passing 1.4 billion members for the first time. Strongest increase is said to be in Africa and Asia. Is that what you're hearing, and what would be behind this?
Yeah, so there have never been more Catholics on earth than there are right now. And the main reason for that, as you say, is the massive growth, the exponential demographic growth in Africa and Asia. The more curious story is that North America and Europe is seeing record numbers of conversions. That's one of the key stories of the last 2 or 3 years, that more and more people are coming into the church. And there's, I think, a wide range of factors that's driving this. I think many young people are tiring of the trite lures of secular capitalism, and they are craving for the good, the true, and the beautiful. And that is, I think, driving them to explore other options. And one of those options is the Christian faith. And so that's, I think, the main story. Then there's also a story whereby the church, in response to many decades of significant decline, has in the Western world begun a program called the New Evangelization, which strives to reach these people and to invite them into relationship with Jesus Christ. And so some of this, it seems, has been effective.
It's interesting. Today is, I believe, the 21st anniversary of the death of Pope John Paul, and I'm wondering what you think he would think of the current situation with Donald Trump and the wars, etc.
Well, he again was a firebrand who certainly wasn't a shrinking violet when it came to critiquing political regimes. He was a strident opponent of communism and of the Soviet Empire, and was a leading figure in relationship with people like Lech Wałęsa and Solidarity in overthrowing the hold that communism had on the hearts and minds of people in Eastern Europe.
Sure.
He was also a strident critic of capitalism and its throwaway culture, its damage that it wrought on the environment, that it reduced people to commodities, and so he was a champion of life. And so he was one of the first people to really, well, not one of the first people, but he certainly was a very active voice in offering the church as an alternative to both the right and the left. And I think Pope Leo, in many ways, is in a subtle, gentle, and prayerful fashion continuing that legacy.
Interesting. David, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Happy Easter.
Thank you so much, Bruce. Happy Easter.
David Dean, of course, a friend of ours and an associate professor at the Atlantic School of Theology, is how we know him best. He joined us tonight from Edmonton to discuss recent developments involving Pope Leo XIV, soon to mark his first year as leader of the Catholic Church. Stay with us. We shall be right back. In the Lifeline tonight, the report that warns Health Canada spending in Atlantic Canada could double in 20 years unless changes are made. CTV's Amanda Debison has more.
A new report says the 4 Atlantic provinces are spending 40% more on health care than they did 10 years ago and could see those totals double over the next 20 years. The Atlantic Economic Council report says the 4 provinces spent a combined $19 billion on health in 2024-25, up from $11 billion in 2014-2015. The council says spending on healthcare will reach $40 billion by 2046 if the 4 provincial governments don't build more efficient, financially sustainable systems. It says the pressure will intensify as the number of people over 75 in the region is expected to increase by 180,000 over the next 2 decades. Starting this week, nurses and midwives in PEI will fall under the same regulatory body. The province's new College in Nursing and Midwifery has officially launched. It oversees licensed practical nurses, midwives, nurse practitioners, registered nurses, and others. Merging the 2 previous regulatory organizations took about 2 years. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Devison for the Lifeline.
On the markets today, the Dow ended the day down 61 points. Energy prices around the world climbing again today after Washington offering no guarantee on when the U.S. and Israeli attacks on Iran will end. BNN Bloomberg's Andrew Bell has the latest now.
Hello there. Iran's shutdown of oil and gas shipments through the crucial Strait of Hormuz continued to drive energy prices higher around the world today. Bloomberg said the world's most important oil contract, so-called dated Brent for immediate delivery, surged above $140 US a barrel, the highest since 2008. Desperate refiners are scrambling to get hold of whatever barrels they can. Iran has paralyzed ship traffic through the Strait of Hormuz after it was attacked in late February by the U.S. and Israel. They want to end Tehran's nuclear program. Let's check out the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar changed hands at 71.83 U.S. cents, down about 1/5 of a U.S. cent. WTI crude, the North American benchmark, traded at $111.54, up more than $11. Western Canadian Select oil, by our latest quote, was at $75.40, down almost $5. However, that does not reflect today's rise in oil prices. And the TSX ended at 33,108.22, up just over 150 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
Thank you, Andrew. Have a good weekend. Now we'll head outside to Kaylin on the weather deck, and still chilly out there, I imagine.
Yeah, it certainly is, Bruce. Let's take a look at our viewer picture for tonight, and this features another scene, the after effects of that freezing rain that moved through the other day. This one from Lorneville, Nova Scotia. I will hand it to the freezing rain here. Sometimes when it's not too heavy and it collects on some of the tree branches, it does create a little bit of a pretty scene, especially when it's backlit by some sunlight. This by Kathy Hunter. I want to thank Kathy very much for sharing that picture. Lorneville for tomorrow. It is a mixture of snow, ice pellets, and some freezing rain, maybe turning over to a bit of rain near the end. High temperature near 1 degree. I have Harvey, New Brunswick on there as well, because yesterday for the viewer picture, I had the wrong Harvey, New Brunswick. So my apologies for that. It is also an icy mix of weather for Harvey tomorrow. Day planner for tomorrow around the Maritime region, that mixture of snow, ice pellets, and in the southwest of Nova Scotia, light rain starts to move in early in the morning and then develops west to east across the Maritimes as we make our way through the morning hours and into the afternoon. Let's find out what's coming up on your Morning Atlantic.
Monday on your Morning Atlantic, Spring Bike Basics.
It is time to get those bicycles out of the garage for another season. We'll get tips on making sure it's road ready.
Start your morning with us Monday on your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
Finally, tonight we're just over 2 months away from the start of the World Cup, and among those getting in the soccer spirit, Lego. The big toy maker will continue its expansion into the sports market this year with a collaboration with 4 of the world's most famous soccer players, including Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. These special sets will be made available ahead of the 2026 World Cup in 3 host nations, the U.S., Mexico, and Canada here, of course. World Cup winner Messi also has his own 1,400-piece of 3D wall art, which will feature him in his signature victory poses. Each player will also have his own minifigure available with less expensive sets as well. Just so many options. That's the program for this Thursday night. The rebroadcast begins in just a moment on CTV2 and, of course, CTVNewsAtlantic.ca updates around the clock. I'm Bruce Frisco in for Todd Battis. I'll be back with your next newscast at 11:30 tonight. Thank you for watching this one. Have a good evening.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.